Good evening, good morning to some, depending on whatever part of the world you are joining us from today. Welcome everyone to our Impact 10,000 signature event. And as you guys know, we call it Boss Up! I must say, it's an absolute pleasure to have each and every one of you join us on this amazing platform. I wish to thank all of you for coming. My name is Charlene Johnson, and I will be your host for today. I am so excited, as you guys can see, and fired up to once again host this positive, life-changing event for women. I wish to welcome all our specially invited guests and, of course, all the beautiful ladies in the house. Now, if you ladies are here and you are excited to be here, I want you all to type in the chat, Boss Up! Let's see the Boss Up going up, all right? Now, I have no doubt that each and every one of you would be inspired by what you are about to experience. Of course, I wish also to welcome all the men who continuously love and support and encourage us, the women. Thank you all also for being with us today. Now, we have in our presence this week another beautiful, bold, phenomenal, and powerful woman. She's a highly sought after nursing professional. She is 59 years old and married for 34 years. She's a registered nurse for 36 years. Talk about commitment and caring for others, 34 years. She's a licensed midwife for 26 years. She has been a nurse educator for 20 years. She has also served as the principal of the School of Nursing and School of Midwifery for 8 years. She has a BSc in nursing education, a master's in education, and is also a certified oncology nurse. She currently works as an assistant lecturer at the University of the West Indies School of Nursing. Everyone, it is my honor, privilege, and heartfelt joy to welcome to our Boss Up platform our featured speaker for today. And our speaker is none other than Mrs. Valerie Sealy-Tobias. Welcome, Ms. Tobias. We welcome you so much to our Boss Up platform. It's a pleasure to meet you. And thank you from the bottom of our hearts for agreeing to be a part of this positive Impact 10,000 life-changing event. Now, Mrs. Tobias, all of us, the ladies, and no doubt the men, are eager to hear what you feel inspired to share with us today. So without further ado, I am going to hand over the mic to our beautiful Mrs. Tobias. Mrs. Tobias, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Charlene Johnson. Nice, you are so enthusiastic. You have me feeling all hyped up as well.
You're welcome.
Yes, I'm very happy to be invited to this session. You know, it's really, I feel privileged to be able to speak to you all. And I kept going around in my mind, what should I talk to them about? So I wanted to, because my field is nursing, and I'm an educator, and I feel impressed that I must give a little bit of education. I was in the session on, is it last night? No, not last night, Thursday, right? I was there and I heard some wonderful things about the products, and I wondered if everyone knew a little bit more about the various conditions that these products and so on are there to help with. So I thought of a few of them, and I felt I wanted to give a little bit of detail from the nursing perspective as to what these women actually go to, what some of you I'm sure would have gone through to make you want to be part of this whole networking venture. And in addition to that, I felt that I wanted to also share my experience with suffering from some of those things that those medications are. I felt that would have been the best thing to talk about. All right, so I know it is to inspire. So I just want to let you know that I give God thanks because of where He placed me. I always wanted to be a nurse from the age of 7, and He placed me there, and I know it was with a purpose. It was with a purpose. I always had a plan. My plan was that I wanted to be a nurse. I fought my father on it because my whole family are teachers, and I fought him on it. I said, I am going to be a nurse. He tried to discourage me, and I would not be discouraged. I made my plan. So I knew when I was going to school what I wanted to do. And that is part of empowerment. You have to know from early, what do you want in life, and go towards it, head towards it. So I planned. And at 18 years old, fresh out of school, 1 month after leaving school, I was in the nursing school as a student, the youngest in the class. My class had 20 ladies, no men for that group. And I was the youngest. I went in, I was 18 years old, the baby of the batch. And I worked hard at my studies. And after 3 years, I qualified as a registered nurse. I went on to work on every area that I went into, I planned. I said, this is where I want to go. And I fought until I got it. They put me to work in the surgical ward, the male surgical ward. And while there, I had my goals. And I tell my students that as well. Formulate your goals, your long-term goals, your short-term goals, formulate them. And I did that. And one of my goals was to move on to working in the operating theater. And I battled with my supervisor. I begged her, please send me to work in the operating theater. And before she retired, she said, this is my gift for you. And she sent me to the operating theater. And I worked there for several years. And again, I had my goals. I said, I know what I want to do while I'm here. And I said, okay, I always intended to combine my career, nursing, with teaching. So I had my long-term goal for that as well. And I said, when I get a chance, I will now go over to the field of education so that I will be doing both things, the nursing that I love and the teaching that my father wanted me to do. So I eventually was able to get into nursing education after doing midwifery. And I got, praise the Lord, I got a scholarship from PAHO, and usually they send one person. And 4 or 5 of us went for the interview, and they decided to send 3 persons. And I was one of those 3, and I was so happy. The 3 of us went, we spent a year. I had blessings upon blessings. So besides coming back with a certificate in nursing education, I came back and recommitted my life to God. That is what that opportunity gave me. And I went on. I said, okay, I'm now a nursing educator. They put me in the school to work. And an opportunity presented itself again. They asked me if I wanted to go on a next scholarship, this time to go to Canada to do oncology nursing. I said, oh, I don't like cancer. I never liked it in all of my actual, profession as a nurse. I found it was so sad, right? So, but it was an opportunity, and I said, okay, I will go. And by purpose in going there, 13 of us went, and they said, okay, you are an educator. We want you to learn how to teach oncology, how to teach cancer. And we're going to put you in places where you would be able to teach. That will be your specialty, to teach. I spent a year at McMaster University, away from my family. That time I had all my 4 children, my husband, very supportive husband I have. And he took care of the children. I had at the time, and I must put in this little plug. I have 1 daughter and 3 sons. And my daughter was 16 at the time. She was in secondary school, getting ready to do her CXC exams. My son, he had gotten meningitis at age 3 and became deaf because of it. And he was now a deaf student going to primary school. He did his common entrance, and they were supposed to place him in El Dorado as his school, because there are supposed to be people who do sign language there. He didn't know sign language, but they felt that was the best way to go. And he did not get in, but they kept promising they would transfer him. And I was waiting to go to school in Jamaica at the time, though. And they eventually gave him the position. He went there because the teacher came from another school to go there. So that's how he got in. So when I left to go to Canada, I left for the 2nd time, left my husband in charge of the children. And, when I came back, I think the first thing I noticed was the children were no longer saying, mommy, mommy, I want this, I want that. It was daddy, daddy, daddy. So I was very happy indeed. So, I had such a wonderful experience. I'm not saying I didn't have challenges. I had challenges, but I think that how you deal with the challenge, your mindset, when you handle your challenges, is what will help you to overcome, of course, with the grace of God as well in the picture. So I went on, I was placed, again, always the youngest. So the youngest person to be appointed as a principal in the School of Nursing and the School of Midwifery. And I've had a lot of challenges with my students coming along. Every first, I was the one to handle it. The largest batch of student nurses, 138, I had to handle it. Every time there was a challenging situation, I guess they felt that I was the one to deal with the situation. And once you put your mind to things, that's one of the things that I want to say. Once you put your mind, you put God first, you tackle what you have to do, you give everybody a fair chance, right? So you listen to everybody. I'm not saying that there are persons who didn't like me. There are lots of persons who didn't like me. But I tried to show that I was fair, right? I tried to show that I was fair. And then, of course, I got the opportunity to go and teach well, it eventually became what I love to teach, which is oncology or cancer. So that's what I am doing now. I also had other opportunities. They started a program at the University School of Nursing with partnering with McMaster, with sick kids hospital to teach pediatric cancers and hematological conditions. And again, they put me to help to coordinate that. And that has also given me a lot of blessings because I've been able to meet a lot of nurses across the Caribbean, right? And educate them. So I have links all over the place, Bahamas, Jamaica, you know, St. Vincent, you name it. So I am, you know, I feel so privileged to be able to do those things. And when I do them, I share with my students. So I have students who are now educators themselves. And they are, you know, they send me little messages and say, this is what we did, this is what I did. And, you know, they feel so proud about it. So I feel that I can now retire because I feel that I have done, you know, a lot of things that, but I like to inspire people. I like to educate people. So every opportunity that I have, every time somebody calls me and say, do you want to present this first? Do you want to do something on breast cancer? Do you want to do something on cervical cancer? You know, I don't ever say no. I don't ever say no because I think that God has blessed me to be able to do that. Don't feel that I haven't had challenges along the way. And that's why I like to share. I've had challenges. I have been in hospitals more times than I could think as a patient. I've had so many surgeries. I told my husband, nobody's to touch this body again with a knife, right? But some of them were very challenging. I've had to deal myself with cancer. So I am a cancer survivor. I got cancer of the cervix. I was diagnosed, I should say, with cancer of the cervix when that was in 2005. I had just gone to do my bachelor's in nursing education. It was supposed to be a program for a year and a half. And we started in January, and February, I got my diagnosis. And the doctor told me, you are to have surgery immediately, as soon as we can organize it. It was stage 1B, but she said it because it was due to human papillomavirus or HPV, and the strain was a very dangerous strain. She told me very aggressive. They needed to do surgery right away. So I told her, well, okay, when we have the break in April, I will, you know, I will think about doing the surgery. She said to me, didn't you hear what I said? This is very aggressive and we need to get it done immediately. So I talked to my husband. Thank God, again, he would have put me in places. So the doctors from the operating theater knew me. The anesthetists, they were jumping at which one would do it. They, you know, the head nurses and so on who were there, they all came out. They did it on a Sunday where they wouldn't have any challenge. And they did my surgery. And yes, I would have hoped that everything would have gone smooth. Everything did go smooth in the surgery, but everything didn't go smoothly with my, you know, recovery and so on. My wound opened up. I had, you know, I had a whole lot of issues. They had to put some large sutures back in it, pain evermore, and all those issues I had to deal with. So everything that I teach and so on, I actually experienced it. So I have a different perspective when I teach it, right? Thank God it was discovered, it was diagnosed at stage 1, so I didn't have to have chemotherapy. I just needed to have the surgery. Lo and behold, 2 years after, pains again, right? A mass again. And, you know, I was so worried. I didn't know how to handle it. But this time the mass wasn't anything to do with cancer. Because of the surgery that I had the 2 years before, apparently I had damage to my urethra, the tube that carries the urine down and out. And there was a backup over the years of urine, so it damaged the kidney. So I had to go in to do surgery for them to clear it up and whatnot. But that ended up with me having surgery, 3 surgeries in 3 months, because they couldn't repair it. It was burst, they burst it when they tried to repair it. And then eventually they realized that the kidney was so damaged that they had to remove the kidney as well. So I had then and continue to live with 1 kidney. So if anything goes wrong with my 1 kidney, and I've had challenges, I've had to go in hospital for bad kidney infection, etc. I've had challenges. But again, I say that mindset, once you have that mindset, once you rely on the Lord, once you have a positive thing, you will have, yes, I've had challenges, lots of challenges with pain and whatnot. Eventually too, because of the surgery, I became a diabetic and hypertensive. So I live with all of those things, but I am here, I'm alive, and my plan is that I will continue to serve humanity however I can, because I give God praise for that. So, well, I don't know if I take up all the time now and I can't show nothing with the video and I just...
No, you go ahead, you go ahead.
So, so that is part of my story. But so one of the things I like to focus on, because when I was diagnosed with cervical cancer, I started to realize that a lot of my colleagues were just like me. They did not pay attention to their health. And one of the things that I know I did not do consistently was doing my pap smears. Right? So when I told them, well, I had done this pap smear and this is what happened and whatnot, everybody started to do their pap smears now regularly, because we spend so much time trying to care for others that we tend to forget ourselves. It happens to us as nurses, it happens to us as mothers, it happens to us as women generally. Sometimes we don't even have to have children and whatnot. Once we are part of a family, we as the women take the nurturing role. So we leave ourselves out and we care for other people. We need to be conscious that we need to care about ourselves, know about our bodies, not be ashamed to be able to deal with those issues in relation to our bodies. Don't hide those things. We need to know those things. Right? And also, if we have daughters, to teach them as well. It's our responsibility as a woman to teach. If we don't have daughters, we may have nieces, we may have cousins, whoever is in our sphere of influence. I like to encourage them to teach them. Not that we leave the boys out, not that we leave the guys out, because that's the thing. I also do a lot of talks on prostate cancer. It's a bugbear for me. A lot of our men in Trinidad and Tobago are succumbing to prostate cancer and dying from it, right? So, but we are on Boss Lady this afternoon. So we're talking about women. So that's some of what I do, encourage the women. And I just, as I said, because I felt that thing. So do I have sharing privileges? Can I share my screen?
Yes, let me just check. I believe so, because you would have been a co-host. So yes, you should be able to share.
Okay, so I'm going to try and put up this short PowerPoint, right? Okay, can it be seen? Is it being seen?
Yes, we are seeing it, Mrs.
Okay.
Tobias.
All right. So let me go to the beginning. I think you all saw the end. Right. And let me put on the slideshow. Okay, so just to because some people just may not be able to. Some people know very well, but I feel that when we see pictures and we visualize things, we know then what is in our body, what it looks like. So I said, let me look at just a few things with the ovaries. So this is what it looks like inside of our bodies as females, right? The first one up here is showing a more vivid picture, actual picture of what it looks like. So there's the ovary, and you see the tubes that are close by it, the fallopian tubes. And we know that our ovaries produce our hormones, our estrogen and our progesterone. And we also know that we have our uterus there. That's the area where once we have fertilization of our eggs, the fetus grows inside of our uterus, right? We also know that we have our cervix, which is down to the bottom of or the mouth, we would say, usually we'd call it the mouth of the uterus, and that's the area where the sperm would go in to fertilize the ova, and it is also the area where our menses, our blood will flow out, and the vagina is below. Okay, so this is just to remind us what our female reproductive organs look like. And some of the conditions I have on the side that are common to the ovaries is polycystic ovaries. I heard you all speak about that last Thursday night, polycystic ovary syndrome. And then we can also have ovarian cysts. So the picture on top is showing what a cyst look like, and that can be very painful. Some women have it, and they have lots of cysts, and they burst, and it can be dangerous. They can die if it is not dealt with surgically. And then people can have ovarian cancer, right? And it's another common cancer found among women in Trinidad and Tobago. Cervical cancer is number one after breast. Breast is the highest one that is that we find many women succumbing to breast cancer, and then after that is the cervical cancer. Right. So let me just say one or two things about those. Well, I'm not going to go through this. The ovaries, the function, they produce the estrogen and the progesterone, and they help with so many of our things, including, having to study things as well to do with menopause. Our ovaries, the estrogen causes so many things in our body. It helps with our functioning of our brain. It helps with our skin. Right? It helps, you notice that when people make shampoos and so on, they put products that is like estrogen content in it, because it helps with the growth of the hair, the teeth, etc. And therefore, when we go into menopause and we no longer producing estrogen and progesterone, everything starts to thin. Our hair thins out, besides all the signs and symptoms that we get to do with going into menopause. Right? But everything, the brain, everything. So we have short-term memory and all of those things. And again, as I said, I was just hearing a bit of the products, but they seem to be able to help with some of these situations. Polycystic ovary syndrome, very common again. And what actually happens is that you have all these small cysts, sometimes hundreds, in one ovary. And they themselves too can boost, right? And it causes problems with the levels of the hormones. And, sometimes it's because of genetic reasons, but it causes overweight, women to be overweight, having irregular periods, sometimes just once or twice for the year they have a period. You see the growth of hair on the face and all of that, right? A lot of pimples and so on the face. And pain, and a big one, depression. Depression for women with polycystic ovary syndrome. Right, so these are all the signs and symptoms: trouble getting pregnant, depression, weight gain, deep voice, oily skin, dark rash on the neck, all of these, high blood pressure, etc. All of these are signs and symptoms of polycystic ovary syndrome. How is it treated? Some people, medication. There's no surgery for it. Medication is what helps with thing. But if persons are desirous of getting pregnant, most times they would have to do things to control the hormones and so on. Right? So just showing some pictures at how it's diagnosed and so on. So they have to go in and take a wedge off of the kidney and look at it under the microscope. The uterus. Right, so we dealt with the kidneys, uterus. These are some of the conditions. Very common, fibroids. Fibroids is the Black woman's curse, right? So we tend to have a lot of women having fibroids. I have seen some when I worked in the operating theater as large as a small pig, a piglet, as large as, and they cause a lot of problems with women bleeding profusely, and again, preventing them from having children successfully, most women. You also have a condition called endometriosis, where you have the tissue that is supposed to be inside of the uterus growing outside the uterus, sometimes on the ovary, sometimes all over the abdomen. And every time the uterus sheds, and we have to have our period and so on, the same thing happens to the tissue. So blood is shedding now inside of the abdomen. So it's women who have endometriosis, they tend to have a very painful life. When it is time for the period, every month, extreme pain. I've seen persons who faint from the pain, excessive vomiting, etc. Right? And again, they also have problems having children. Right? And if you look at the picture right down to the end, that shows what the cervix looks like when they look at it through that speculum that the doctor puts in and opens up that metal speculum. This is what they see when they look at the cervix. And this is showing cancer of the cervix, right? So this again, and it is very, very, very common in Trinidad and Tobago. Cancer of the cervix used to be a very curable condition once diagnosed early. It is now being considered actually a sexually transmitted infection because of the human papilloma virus. So because of HPV, it is, so I'm just skipping on to this because I talked briefly about that already, the endometriosis, right? Just to move on to the cervical cancer. So because of HPV, there are two strains that are very dangerous, the 16 and 18, and it is considered a sexually transmitted infection. So most women now in Trinidad and Tobago have cervical cancer. I've seen women having to take out their uterus at age 20, 21, no children, no because of HPV, right? We have issues when it comes to that. As I said, I keep saying, second most prevalent cancer in Trinidad and Tobago in women. Breast first, the cervix after. And these are some signs of more advanced cervical cancer. You will have vaginal bleeding after intercourse. So after sex, there's a little bleeding all the time. Or you will have bleeding during the period, or after menopause, you may suddenly have some bleeding. You also have bleeding for longer periods of time. So if normally a normal period is like 5 days, you find sometimes all up to 10 days, you still having a period. And that is a major sign. That is something that needs to, once you see that happening, it needs to be looked at. Right? So just awareness, pain during intercourse, those are also some of the other signs and symptoms. Right? And of course, these are the risk factors. What puts you at risk? Having many sexual partners, or if your partner has many sexual partners, because HPV is something that there really is no actual signs and symptoms. So you don't know if you have it. You just have to be very careful with your lifestyle, right? You don't know if you have it. Because, and I just want to say something that I always say when I talk a little bit about cervical cancer. Before, a few years before, you used to say, well, okay, the men will give you, and it targets the cervix, the cervical cells, it targets the HPV, targets the cervical cells. And nobody ever saw that anything would happen to the man. So the man would pass it on to you. As a woman, you could get cervical cancer and nothing would happen to them. And then you also don't know unless you do some blood test that looks to see specifically if you have HPV in your bloodstream. There's no other sign and symptom. But now they are seeing that men who have HPV, they can also have cancer of the penis, cancer of the throat, cancer of the mouth, right? And again, because of various sexual practices, right? So these are, and I think that's where I'm going to leave it, because once you try very early to find out by doing regular pap smears and so on, it's easy to catch, easy to get rid of. So now what they do is just, sometimes they use some vinegar on the cervix very early, and that or burn off the parts of the cervix that is damaged. So once it is early detection, you have prevention, so you don't have yourself developing cervical cancer. Right? Practice safe sex, don't smoke, etc. So these are the screening and diagnostic measures: pap smear or the pap test, colposcopy, looking inside, and when they look inside the cervix area, they can just, as I say, treat the cervix once it is early. Right? And then if it is not early, they would have to go in and take out the whole of the uterus. And if it's discovered very late, you will have to end up having radiation and chemotherapy. Right? So I think that's all I put up there to share. Right? And again, I want to just encourage us as women to take care of our health.
Wow. Mrs. Tobias, wow. I thank God for you. You are a blessing to all of us, not just the women, but the men. Today I have been writing little notes as you spoke, and we have learned so much. If any of you all have learned anything from Mrs. Tobias, I want you all to let her know how important she has been to us this evening. You can type it in the chat. All right, Mrs. Tobias, we thank you. Now, what I would like to just highlight is some of the points I got from you. You spoke about the importance of having a positive mindset. You spoke about God being key, and these things help us to overcome challenges. You put God first, things are going to work out. I know, when I heard you talk, at the beginning you said you are a cancer survivor. Then I heard about one kidney. Then I heard about the diabetes. And you know what, Mrs. Tobias? It helped me to see no matter what we go through in life, you know, we shouldn't go into it with a negative attitude, but we need to know that we could be this. We trust God. We have our mind focused and we can overcome, because sometimes little things happen to us and we feel like giving up. But you have inspired us and shown us, I mean, a testimony that it's not over when we get that cancer report. It's not over when we hear we have to take out a kidney. It's not over. We can trust God. We can have a positive mindset and we can overcome. All right. Another thing I want to say is hats off to your husband. And hats off to all the supportive men out there, because even though this is a Boss Up platform, we know that God put men on the earth for a reason. And it's so nice to hear about your husband stepping in and, you know, helping you through to all your success. So we want to say hats off to him. All right. Men are awesome. And we are thanking you also for that knowledge you gave us about different conditions of the ovaries, different conditions of the uterus. You talked about the importance of screening and diagnostic measures. And you also told us as women, even as men, it is important to continually go and check. Don't be afraid, because by the time you end up going and check, it may be a bit too late. So you have really, really inspired me. And I'm sure people have been typing in the chat. You have inspired all of us. So I'm going to give you a short break and we're going to have a video at this time. And then we are going to return. And if any lady has any, or man, anyone has any question they would like to ask Mrs. Tobias, you all can type it in the chat. So Mrs. Tobias, we're going to take a little break.
Okay.
Okay, great video. We thank our host for that video. And now, Mrs. Tobias, we are going to the chat to see if there are any questions, if anyone has any comments. I'm seeing here, wow, success really does leave clues. And we have people joining us from Ghana. All right, I'm seeing here, welcome, Adwa. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Wow, so sweet. Thanks so much. Such a helpful husband. Accolades for your husband as well. Wow, you are a strong woman and I super celebrate you, ma'am. Your mindset is awesome and very inspirational. I could not have said it better myself. Strong woman. Yes, oh sis, really strong and blessed. Much love. Learning. People are learning. Thank you very much. Information is needed. Your presentation is well received. Somebody's asking for the recording. And I mean, there are some very educational presentation, Mrs. Tobias. You are a blessing. Wow, this is very good info. I was enlightened. Thank you for sharing on our platform. She's indeed a strong woman. And the list goes on and on. Much love and appreciation from Nigeria. Woo, woo. Wow, Mrs. Tobias. This is awesome. And I'm not seeing any questions, so I don't know. Maybe you have said it all. Maybe you have given us a lot to think about. I'm not sure, but I have one. Okay, I'm seeing here from Mr. Louis. Thank you, Mrs. Tobias, for being a blessing, sharing your value with the world. And then I see our beautiful Alicia is saying, is cervical cancer only caused by HPV or sexually transmitted?
No, it is not. It can be caused by other things as well, other things that cause cancer. So like alcohol is a big one. Wow. That causes lack of exercise, things in your diet, and also those are some of the things that would lead to cancer, right? But for cervical cancer, this HPV is really heading the list now. And this is not Trinidad and Tobago, this is all over the world. HPV is heading the list when it comes to cervical cancer. But it is also the most treatable cancer, because if you catch it early, you get rid of it early. You keep your cervix, you keep your uterus, right? And I just want to say big up to Yvonne Floyd Davis, who is one of my colleagues. So we have been colleagues a long time. So thank you for your comment, Yvonne, but she could teach the same thing.
Oh my goodness, Mrs. Tobias, I love you so much. Now, I have one question, and so thanks for answering. And I mean, how you answer the questions, Mrs. Tobias, I must say. You know, you answer it, and how you teach in a way that we understand. You know, and I must commend you. There's nothing that you have said that has been over our head. So I really, really appreciate you bringing it all home for us. Ladies out there, please make sure and get your pap smear. You see the list of things you need to check, please. Okay, Marians and all the guests. Now, Mrs. Tobias, if you were to talk to a lady out there who is struggling, who is not confident, who is having difficulty overcoming some challenge that they may be facing, what will be your message to them as we close?
Okay, well, my first message would be to take it to God and pray. That's my first message. And I would also say that, you know, a lot of times when I talk to people, I tell them that sometimes there are persons with worse stories out there, and they have survived. They have done what they need to survive. And therefore, once you have a positive outlook, right, you can, you know, you can do anything once you have that positive outlook. I like to, when I talk to people and they have their issues and whatnot, I start to tell them stories of other persons who think, and they say, well, watch, you know, my thing not so bad after all, you know? So having that positive outlook, I think, is second, right? First, take it to God and pray. Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Nuggets. Thank you so much, Mrs. Tobias. Again, ladies and gents, 2 simple truths. First, take it to the Lord in prayer. And secondly, have a positive outlook, remembering that our mindset goes a long way. So, Mrs. Tobias, I am so happy I got to host you today. We are all happy. We are glad that you came. Thank you so much for being our Infinite Impact guest. We appreciate all that you have done. And we pray that God continues to bless you and your family as you continue to share your knowledge with everyone.
Thank you.
You are welcome. So everyone, this has been our signature event, Boss Up. It is powered by Emory. And we want to thank everyone for joining us on the call today. And as we close, I want to remind you When women support each other, incredible things can happen. Let us continue to give support to each other. I'm your host, Charlene Johnson, and it was a pleasure.